Hi, I'm Art Caplan. I'm at the Division of Medical Ethics at the NYU Grossman School of Medicine in New York City. A friend of mine, a very experienced and well respected surgeon, shared with me a request that was received by email recently about organ donation. And I'm just going to read you what the request was. It says, "Hello, my name is X. I was wondering if you all needed my left hand for a patient in need of a limb transplant. Uh, I saw on organdonation.gov that you were looking for an upper limb donation, meaning sort of a hand and arm. Uh, there are definitely lists that the surgeons keep when they're looking for cadaver donors for a patient. And for something like an arm, it's not an emergency, so they can list something and say they're on the lookout, trying to match size, ethnicity, race, skin color, those age, those sorts of things. But this inquiry basically said, I have done some research and I know that I would have to donate my whole left hand and a pretty big portion of my arm. I'm okay with this. So, as maybe as bizarre as it seems, the question arises as transplant begins to move into new areas of uh, transplantation, sometimes called vascularized composite allografts. We've seen these in the news: faces, hands, limbs, eye, uterus. What should our policy be in this country about accepting volunteers who want to do living donation for this new array of organ transplants? Now, in part, we don't have to worry too much about this because face, hand are still considered experimental. There's not a lot of demand for these procedures yet as the surgeons and transplant teams try to figure out the immunosuppression, how to do the microsurgery, trying to get nerves to regrow. Are things going to become functional? And we're still collecting evidence in that way. And so the number of trials is small. And I should add, the cost of doing these kinds of procedures is very high. A face, a hand, these can be millions of dollars to get transplants done. On the other hand, traditional transplants, kidneys, livers, lungs, we have seen living donors. Certainly for a kidney, there are the majority of kidney transplants in the United States today come from people who are actually living donors, not cadaver sources. And we have allowed people to donate a lobe of lung, particularly to a child, their child. And there are instances in which people have donated a piece of their liver, which does in fact regenerate post that donation as a living source. And living donation has tremendous advantages. For one, you can line up the donor and the recipient in the same place. You're not doing an emergency operation. Everything can be planned out. The team can be rested. You can make sure that nobody's got the flu or sick. When cadaver organs become available, it's kind of a crisis operation. Everybody has to get into the hospital. You're hoping that they're not overly tired or that no one has an infectious disease that would uh, make the procedure too dangerous on that day, maybe to attempt because someone had the flu or some other COVID or something like that on the surgical team. The blood bank can be ready. You could pre donate blood if you thought you were going to need that. So you're set up to really do this in an organized way when the source is a living donor. Also, the living donor can pick the recipient. We permit that, not with cadaver donation, where we have a system for distribution. But if you want to move your loved one up on the wait list, you can say, I'll donate to my brother, my mother, my fellow church member. You can identify who it is that you want to get it. And in some ways, that's an incentive for people to make living donations. There's also the reality that if you do a living donation within a family, you may get a better biological match. In living donations, outcomes are better than they are with cadaver donations for all the existing forms of transplant. So, what would the issues be when someone sends in a request and says, "Hey, I'd like to donate my arm"? Well, obviously, first and foremost comes competency. Is this a person who is mentally competent? Is it someone who is psychiatrically disturbed? Do they know what they're doing? How could we possibly accept a gift where someone would become dysfunctional, would lose their abilities significantly to do many things in the world by going down to one arm? I doubt that it would be easy for anyone, even in a world where limb transplants and hand transplants were well established as therapies and much more common, to pass the competency test. Probably the best chance would be someone who's a family member who says, "I want to donate a limb to my brother or to my child." Um, we may have more of an understanding of why they'd want to try and help that way. So, thinking harder, maybe we would accept a living donor of a limb if we were in a situation where they were going to be terminally ill, that they knew they were going to pass away, and they say, "Look, I'd like to donate my arm, but why are you waiting? You just told me that outcomes are better when I'm living. So, how about I do that before I pass?" We have some states also with medical assistance in dying, so people know that they're going to plan their death. Would we ever allow someone to make a living donation of a hand or a limb, or for that matter, a uterus or an eye or anything else? Again, I think we would find ourselves in a very difficult situation where someone who might require, even at the end of life, functional capabilities, push themselves up, ability to eat, undergoing a massive operation before they wind up trying to battle their own life threatening disease. Even if someone was elderly and said, "I don't care, I don't want to uh, do this, I'd rather my child, my adult child, took this limb," you're still making them far, far worse off. So I think the combination of competency would rule out most out of the blue inquiries, like the one that I'm telling you my surgeon friend got. Maybe within families, we might consider situations where it would be possible to permit something as far out as a limb or a hand donation. But even there, you're still going to have to assess competency, coercion, and what would it mean to render somebody dysfunctional and have them undergo a massive maiming procedure, even if it would benefit someone else and the benefit was worth it to the person who says they want to donate. I'm pretty skeptical that we're in the limb and hand and eye situations, that this is something that our society is going to wind up tolerating. I'm Art Caplan at the Division of Medical Ethics at NYU Grossman School of Medicine. Thanks for watching.